Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight up. Too many people are sitting around waiting on a calendar to save their life. You're talking about in 2026, I'm going to change. 2026 ain't coming to rescue you. You have to show up for yourself right now. Time doesn't fix people. Decisions do. See, the first thing you got to fix is your mindset. If your thinking is broken, everything you touch is going to be broken too. You can't think negative and live positive. You can't keep talking about what you don't have, who hurt you, who failed you, and expect success to knock on your door. Life responds to what you believe about yourself. If you keep telling yourself you're stuck, guess what? You're going to stay right there. Next thing you need to fix is your discipline. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays. Discipline is what makes you get up when you don't feel like it. Discipline is doing what's hard now so life can be easy later. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they lack consistency. You can pray all day, but if you don't put in the work, heaven can't bless laziness. Third thing, look at the people around you. Show me your circle, and I'll show you your future. Everybody can't go where you're going. Some people love you, but they don't know how to support your growth. Some folks are comfortable being average, and they want you comfortable too. You got to learn the difference between loyalty and limitation. Sometimes letting go is not hate, it's obedience to your purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about something that keeps more people stuck than failure ever could, and that is waiting. Waiting on the right time, waiting on the perfect moment, waiting on the next year to show up and change everything. Let me tell you something real clear. Time don't change people, decisions do. You can sit in the same place for 5 years and call it patience. But if you're not growing, that ain't patience, that's fear wearing a nice suit. People love to say, next year I'll get serious, but next year keeps moving further away because seriousness starts with a choice, not a calendar. The truth is, if you keep waiting for conditions to be perfect, you'll never move. Life does not hand you green lights. It hands you chances. You either take them or you make excuses. And excuses feel good in the moment, but they age real bad. Every excuse you make today becomes a regret tomorrow. You don't wake up one day magically disciplined, confident, or focused. You become those things by showing up even when you don't feel ready. Readiness is a result, not a requirement. Most people are not stuck because they lack ability. They are stuck because their mindset is broken. They talk themselves out of opportunities before life even gets a chance to test them. They say things like, I'm not good enough. I don't have the right connections. I missed my chance. Let me help you. You don't miss your chance when you're breathing. As long as you're alive, there's still something for you to do. But you can't keep thinking small and expecting big outcomes. Your life will always move in the direction of your most dominant thoughts. Waiting also becomes dangerous because it trains you to accept comfort over progress. Comfort is addictive. Comfort will convince you that staying the same is safer than trying and failing. But staying the same is the slowest way to lose your life. You don't lose your life all at once. You lose it little by little every time you say, I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes a storage room for dreams you were too afraid to act on today. Let me say this clearly. Fear never disappears before action. Fear disappears after action. Confidence doesn't come before the work. It comes from the work. Every successful person you admire had to move while they were scared. They didn't wait for clarity. They moved and clarity caught up. You're not confused because you don't know what to do. You're confused because you won't do what you already know. Another thing about waiting is it teaches you to outsource responsibility. You start blaming the economy, your background, your family, your past. And yes, some people had it harder than others, that's real. But at some point, your story stops being an explanation and starts being an excuse. You can't change where you came from, but you can absolutely change where you're headed. And that shift happens the moment you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what am I going to do about it? People say they're waiting on motivation. Let me help you again. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. Discipline is what carries you when motivation leaves. Discipline is doing the work even when nobody's clapping, even when you don't see results yet, even when it feels pointless. Waiting kills discipline because it convinces you that effort can be postponed. And once you get used to postponing effort, you get comfortable with average. Here's the hard truth. The version of you that keeps waiting will never meet the version of you that wins. They live in two different worlds. One is built on excuses, and the other is built on execution. You don't need more time, you need more courage. Courage to start messy. Courage to look foolish. Courage to fail forward. Because every step you take teaches you something waiting never will. So if you've been telling yourself you'll get serious later, understand this: later is not promised. What is promised is the opportunity in front of you right now. And if you don't take it, life will give it to somebody else who's willing to move without guarantees. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that took me a long time to understand. If your mind is not right, nothing else in your life will ever be right. You can change your job, your city, your relationship, even your goals. But if you carry the same thinking into new situations, you will keep producing the same results. A broken mindset will sabotage an opportunity every single time. Most people want success, but they don't want to change how they think. They want new results with old habits and old beliefs. That don't work. You can't think like a loser and expect to live like a winner. Life doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you believe. And if deep down you believe you're not worthy, not capable, or not meant for more, then that belief will quietly run your decisions. Your mindset shows up in the way you talk to yourself when nobody's around. It shows up in the excuses you make, the risks you avoid, and the opportunities you talk yourself out of. Some of you defeat yourself before life even gets a chance. You see an opportunity, and instead of asking, what if it works? You ask, what if I fail? Let me help you. What if you do nothing? That's the real failure. A weak mindset keeps you focused on what's wrong instead of what's possible. You spend more time replaying your past than preparing for your future. You keep reminding yourself of mistakes you already paid for. You can't drive forward while staring in the rearview mirror. The past is a lesson, not a life sentence. But if you don't fix how you think about it, it will control how far you go. Let me tell you something else. Mindset determines how you handle pressure. When your thinking is strong, pressure makes you sharper. When your thinking is weak, pressure makes you quit. Life will test you. That's guaranteed. The question is whether you see challenges as confirmation that you're failing or confirmation that you're growing. Every level comes with resistance. If it was easy, everybody would be there. Some people say they're waiting until they feel confident. Confidence does not come first. Clarity does not come first. Action comes first. Your mind gets stronger when you prove to yourself that you can show up even when you're unsure. Every small win rewires how you see yourself. But if you keep waiting to feel ready, your mind never gets the evidence it needs to change. Your mindset also controls what you allow. When you don't believe you deserve more, you tolerate less. You stay in places that drain you. You accept disrespect. You settle for average because deep down you think that's all you qualify for. Let me say this clearly. Knowing your worth is not arrogance. It's alignment. When your mindset shifts, your standards shift too. Another thing about mindset, it affects how you listen. A closed mind hears criticism. A growth mind hears instruction. Some of the advice you keep rejecting is the very thing that could elevate you. But pride and fear make you defensive instead of teachable. If you already knew everything, you'd already be where you want to be. Here's the truth nobody likes to hear. Before life changes on the outside, something has to change on the inside. You have to start seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself as a participant in your destiny. You may not control everything that happens to you, but you absolutely control how you respond. And that response begins in the mind. When you fix your mindset, you stop asking for permission to grow. You stop waiting for validation. You stop letting fear make your decisions. You start moving with intention. And once your thinking lines up with where you're trying to go, your results have no choice but to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. Motivation is not going to save you. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings change. You can wake up motivated today and empty tomorrow. If your progress depends on how you feel, you're going to live a very inconsistent life. That's why discipline matters more than talent, more than inspiration, and more than hype. Discipline is doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. It's showing up when nobody's watching, when there's no applause, when the results haven't shown up yet. Most people quit right before discipline would have paid off. They stop because they don't see progress fast enough, not realizing that growth is happening quietly before it ever becomes visible. A lack of discipline shows up in small choices. Skipping one day, making one excuse, saying, "I'll do it tomorrow." Those small decisions feel harmless, but they stack up. Discipline works the same way. Small, consistent actions compound into big results. Nobody becomes successful overnight, but people do fail overnight by repeatedly choosing comfort over commitment. Let me say this clearly. Discipline is self-respect in action. When you keep promises to yourself, you build trust with yourself. And when you trust yourself, your confidence grows. A lot of people don't believe in themselves because they've broken too many promises to themselves. They say they're going to start, and they don't. They say they'll change, and they don't. After a while, your mind stops believing your words. Discipline also protects you from distractions. Distractions don't look dangerous, they look enjoyable. They look like rest, entertainment, and temporary relief. But too much comfort will rob you of your future. Everything you want requires focus, and focus requires discipline. You can't build something meaningful if you're constantly pulled in every direction. Here's another truth. Discipline creates freedom. People think discipline is restrictive, but it's the opposite. Discipline frees you from chaos, stress, and last-minute panic. When you do the work early, you don't have to beg later. When you stay consistent, you don't have to scramble. The pain of discipline is always cheaper than the pain of regret. A disciplined person doesn't wait to feel ready. They move because they made a decision. Feelings eventually catch up to behavior. If you wait until you feel like it, you'll stay exactly where you are. Discipline moves first, and motivation follows. That's how real change happens. Let me also tell you this. Discipline exposes what you really want. If you say you want something, but you won't commit daily effort to it, then you don't want it bad enough. And that's okay, but be honest with yourself. Stop lying about goals you're not willing to work for. Clarity saves time. Discipline forces honesty. People love watching successful individuals, but they don't love copying their routines. They admire the outcome but ignore the process. The early mornings, the late nights, the repetition, the boredom, that's the real price. Discipline is boring sometimes. It's not exciting. But boring done consistently beats exciting done occasionally. Let me remind you, discipline doesn't mean perfection. You will mess up. You will miss days. The difference is disciplined people don't quit when they slip. They get back on track immediately. They don't let one bad decision turn into a bad week or a bad year. They correct quickly. At the end of the day, discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Without it, talent is wasted. Dreams stay dreams, and potential stays locked up. With it, even ordinary people can build extraordinary lives. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that can either speed up your success or completely shut it down. The people you keep around you. Your environment is stronger than your intentions. You can have big dreams, good plans, and strong faith, but if the people around you don't support growth, they will slowly talk you out of becoming who you're meant to be. A lot of people don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they listen to the wrong voices. Not everybody who's close to you is qualified to advise you. Some people love you, but they don't understand your vision. Some people are comfortable where they are, and your growth makes them uncomfortable. So instead of cheering you on, they criticize, joke, or discourage you. Not because you're wrong, but because your movement reminds them of what they're not doing. Let me make this clear. Loyalty is important. A loyalty that costs you your future is too expensive. There's a difference between staying connected and staying stuck. Some relationships are seasonal. They were right for who you were, but they are not right for who you're becoming. Holding on to everybody will weigh you down. Elevation requires separation. Your circle influences how you think, how you speak, and what you accept. If you're around people who complain all the time, you'll start complaining. If you're around people who settle, you'll start justifying less. If you're around people who don't dream, your dreams will start to feel unrealistic. You don't even notice the shift. It happens quietly. That's why environment is dangerous when it's wrong. People often say, I don't care what people think. That sounds good, but it's not true. Humans are influenced whether they admit it or not. The key is choosing influence on purpose. You need people in your life who challenge you, who tell you the truth, who don't let you stay comfortable when you're capable of more. Encouragement is good, but accountability is better. Let me also say this. Everybody can't celebrate your next level. Some people were comfortable with the old you because it made them feel safe. When you start changing, they feel threatened. So they remind you of your past, your mistakes, your limits. Don't confuse familiarity with destiny. Just because someone knows you doesn't mean they should lead you. Another thing about your circle, it affects your courage. When you're surrounded by dreamers, risk feels normal. When you're surrounded by doubters, safety feels smart. And safety has killed more dreams than failure ever will. You need at least a few people who think bigger than you, who expect more from life, who make your excuses sound weak. This doesn't mean you hate people or look down on them. It means you respect your future enough to protect it. Growth requires tough decisions. Sometimes the hardest part of success is outgrowing people you care about. But if you don't choose your future, someone else's comfort will choose it for you. Let me tell you something personal. Every level of my life required a different circle. Not because I became better than people, but because the assignment got bigger. Bigger assignments need stronger alignment. And when alignment is off, frustration shows up. At the end of the day, the people you walk with determine how far you'll go. You can't keep running with people who refuse to move. Choose wisely because your circle is either pushing you forward or holding you back. And time will always reveal which one it is. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about something that quietly destroys more futures than failure ever will, and that is unhealed habits. People think their biggest problem is lack of opportunity, lack of money, or lack of support. But most of the time, it's patterns they keep repeating. You don't get the life you want, you get the life you practice. And if you keep practicing the same habits, you'll keep getting the same results. Bad habits don't look dangerous at first. They look familiar. They look comfortable. They look like just the way I am. Procrastination, avoidance, overthinking, self-doubt. These habits don't scream at you. They whisper. And because they don't hurt immediately, you ignore them. But over time, they drain your energy, your focus, and your confidence. One of the most damaging habits is putting things off. Procrastination convinces you that delay is harmless, that there will always be more time. But delay compounds just like effort does. Every time you avoid something hard, you train your mind to run instead of face. And eventually, even small challenges start feeling overwhelming. You're not lazy, you're just in the habit of avoiding discomfort. Another habit that holds people back is negative self-talk. The way you speak to yourself matters. If you constantly remind yourself of what you lack, what you messed up, or what you're afraid of, your mind accepts that as truth. You wouldn't talk to someone you love the way some of you talk to yourselves. That inner voice becomes the lens through which you see every opportunity. If that voice is broken, everything else will be too. Let me say this clearly. Habits are often rooted in unresolved pain. Some of you aren't afraid of success. You're afraid of disappointment. You've been hurt before, failed before, trusted before, and got burned. So you protect yourself by not fully committing. You call it being careful, but it's really fear disguised as logic. Until you heal what caused the habit will keep coming back. Comfort is another habit people underestimate. Comfort feels safe, but it's expensive. It costs you growth. When you get used to being comfortable, effort feels like suffering. You start avoiding anything that challenges you. But everything you want exists on the other side of discomfort. Growth always asks for a price, and that price is effort over ease. Let me also talk about distraction. Distraction is a habit now. Phones, entertainment, constant noise. They keep you busy but not productive. You feel tired, but you didn't build anything. Distraction numbs the frustration of not progressing, but it doesn't fix it. You don't need more time. You need fewer distractions. Here's the hard truth. Habits don't change with wishes. They change with awareness and action. You have to be honest about what you keep repeating. Not what you plan to change, not what you talk about, but what you actually do daily. Small changes done consistently will beat big intentions done occasionally. Breaking a habit feels uncomfortable because it challenges your identity. You've been this way for so long that change feels unfamiliar. But unfamiliar doesn't mean wrong. It means new. And new is where growth lives. If you don't fix the habits that hurt you, they will follow you into every new season. New goals won't save old patterns. You have to clean up what you carry before you step into what's next. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you about faith. Because a lot of people misunderstand what it really is. They think faith is just believing, just hoping, just praying and waiting for something to fall out the sky. Let me help you today. Faith without action will keep you exactly where you are. You can believe all day, but belief that doesn't move your feet won't move your life. I meet people all the time who say, I'm not faith, but nothing in their routine shows it. They pray for opportunities they're not prepared for. They ask God to change their situation, but they refuse to change their habits. Faith is not magic. Faith is partnership. You do your part and God does what you can't. But God is not going to override your laziness, your fear, or your excuses. Real faith requires courage. It requires you to move before you see results. It requires you to act while things are still uncertain. Most people want guarantees before they take a step, but faith works the opposite way. You step first, and the ground shows up after. If you wait until everything makes sense, you'll never move. Faith means trusting enough to try even when you're scared. Let me say this. Praying without working is wishing, and wishing has never built anything. You can't ask for success and then refuse discipline. You can't ask for growth and avoid discomfort. You can't ask for change and keep doing the same things. Faith shows up in your actions, not just your words. A lot of people use faith as a hiding place. They say, I'm waiting on God, when really God is waiting on them. Waiting to see effort, waiting to see commitment, waiting to see obedience. Sometimes the answer doesn't come because the action hasn't started yet. You want clarity, but clarity comes after movement, not before it. Fear is the biggest enemy of faith. Fear convinces you to delay, to play safe, to stay where you are. And fear sounds logical. It sounds like responsibility. It sounds like being realistic. But faith will always challenge logic. Faith will ask you to stretch, to risk, to trust something bigger than what you can see. Let me tell you something important. Faith grows when you act. Every time you move despite fear, your faith gets stronger. Every time you take a step and survive it, your confidence increases. But if you never act, your faith stays weak. Faith is like a muscle. If you don't use it, it won't grow. Some of you are waiting for signs. Let me help you. Your desire is the sign. That vision you can't shake, that idea that won't leave you alone, that pull toward more. That's not random. That's purpose calling. But purpose requires participation. God gives vision, not execution. Execution is on you. Here's another truth. Faith doesn't mean everything will work out perfectly. Faith means you trust the process even when it's uncomfortable. You will fail sometimes. You will get rejected. You will feel embarrassed. But faith keeps you moving anyway. Failure doesn't mean God left you. It means you're learning. People admire success, but they don't always respect the faith it took to get there. The unseen work, the quiet prayers, the steps taken with no applause. That's where faith lives. Not in talk, but in action. If you really believe your life can be better, then your daily actions need to match that belief. Faith that moves is faith that works. And when faith and action come together, things start changing, not overnight, but steadily, surely, and permanently.